Greetings. Welcome to a beautiful Friday afternoon as I look out my window here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. It's another edition of the Desmond Johnson Show live here, getting you ready for your busy sports weekend. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/at Tobacco Road Sports Radio. You can catch shows like this show, the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, and Believe in Heels Hoops. Speaking of Heels Hoops, we had to go get Isaac Schade from the Locked on Heels podcast. He's going to help me figure out what the hell is going on with the North Carolina Tar Heels and is it fixable between now and the ACC tournament. We'll get you all the latest news on that. Carolina playing Syracuse at 1 o'clock on ABC. This upcoming Saturday. Plus, if we get a chance, we might go around the ACC a little bit. Duke's got a huge matchup against Michigan on Saturday as well. So we'll get into all that and more. Leading it all off with some ACC hoops action here for this upcoming week is the Desmond Johnson Show. Let's go ahead and roll that intro.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the slaughter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches. I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And welcome into the Desmond Johnson Show, a loaded Friday here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Make sure you listen to our sports block over on WWBG 1470 AM from 3 to 6 p.m. every Friday afternoon. You can hear it in Greensboro and Guilford County. My show, Winning the Division, NFL Roundtable Show, Believe in Panthers, a lot of good stuff there. So if you're in Central North Carolina, you're driving around the Triad, and you want to hear some good sports talk in the middle of the afternoon on Friday, go definitely check us out over there. Isaac Schade in the house from Locked on Heels, and we're just going to get right into it. Chris Lee's going to come tag in with him and come in afterwards and bring us home from WRAL. But Isaac, man, where are you emotionally right now when it comes to North Carolina? Because we've kind of, ever since Seth Tribble hit that 3 against Duke, we went from here to kind of like this, and now the plane's falling down to the sky. Like, where are you right now after watching the debacle in Raleigh earlier this week as NC State broke the belts out on Carolina?
The vibes are down, Desmond. The vibes are way down. And you're absolutely, it's funny. Tomorrow, Saturday, will be when the NCAA selection committee does that top 16 reveal that they do each year. And had that been right after the Duke game, Carolina would have been listed in that. I fully believe that. But they've lost 2 out of 3 since then. The State, even with a healthy Caleb Wilson and Henry Vasar, I think State would have been favored in that game, actually. But it's just missing your top 2 scorers. Your top 2 scorers who, oh, by the way, are your main front court pieces. And yes, Jaron Stevenson and Zayden High have done admirably filling in their stead, but there's just not that level of depth behind them. The depth is in the backcourt, but Desmond, the problem is, while Jaron Stevenson and Zayden High have stepped in and, again, done a nice job filling in, the backcourt has been porous in these 2 road losses. I was just talking about this on my Locked on Tar Heels show today on Friday, that in those road losses to Miami and NC State, the combination of the starting backcourt, I'm going to try to remember the numbers in real time here, of Derek Dixon and Seth Trimble were combined like 4 of 35 from the field, 11-something%, and 1 of 21 from 3, which is like 4%. And so it's just that you're just not getting enough right now from your starting point guard and shooting guard.
How are you feeling about Derek Dixon? We were cheering for him on Believe in Heels Hoops, which you can actually catch on Tobacco Road's YouTube channel. Myself, former Heels Hooper PJ Harrison, and Heels 6-man B-Dot. We were talking about wanting Derek Dixon in the starting lineup when Kyan Evans was starting earlier in the year. It was just clear that Dixon brought a little something different. Yes. But now that Dixon has started for 5 or 6 games, they did go to the stretch where they were undefeated with him in the lineup, and now they've started to drop a couple, and he had a horrible game at State. It feels like Hubert did not expect Elliot Cadeau to transfer out because what he has brought in, there's not that speedy point guard that you normally are traditionally used to seeing at Carolina. And you can tell it's frustrating Hubert because I noticed, especially in the state game, as soon as Carolina inbounds the ball, watch Hubert Davis on the sideline. He's doing this. He's like, go, 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 go. And no matter how hard he wands that arm, they can only go a certain speed. Whereas before, you had RJ Davis or Caleb Love or somebody bringing the ball up where you get it up the court and go and push. And they did have some success with that against Miami where they were throwing it up ahead of they'd make a basket and then Carolina would throw it up ahead of the defense and score, which we hadn't really seen a lot this year. They tried to do it against State, but they just didn't seem to have the horses to do it. How concerned are you about Derek Dixon at the point guard position? Because I don't know if he has anything left to go to other than maybe Isaiah Dennis, which is a strange case where we haven't really seen him hardly at all. Nobody really knows why. How do you feel about Derek Dixon at point guard?
I'll say a couple things in response to that, Desmond. Number one, there has been never a Tar Heels team that's been fast enough for any coach. Roy Williams was doing the third base coach thing to Ty Lawson, who's the speediest guy we've ever seen. So I don't care how fast you're going or how much of a pitch ahead. It's never going to be fast enough. I'd love to hear PJ's thoughts on that when you guys are talking next.
That's very valid point. Yeah.
He's the recipient of that as well. Secondly, I actually think Coach Davis had an inkling that Elliott might be gone. I think the issue is that they weren't able to either land a higher level transfer point guard like a Donovan Dent or whomever you want to go to. And that I think they thought they were going to get more out of Kyan Evans and that he hasn't been able to live up to it. Cards on the table, I thought in the postseason that he was going to be able to, and whether it's, you need a second year to get that figured out or whatever it is, it's just not there. Derek Dixon had been there. His shooting splits were great in his first couple games in the starting lineup, but something, you said it, Des, something is broke with his shot right now. He had that banked in 3 against Pitt. That was the only points he scored in that game. That was a whoopsie right there as well. And then he had a couple just bad misses from deep in the NC State game on Tuesday. And so where I'm at with Derek Dixon right now is he is the answer for me that you got to continue to ride with. I think they've hit the freshman wall with him right now. The question is, in these final 5 games of the regular season and then through the postseason, can they find a way to get him past that freshman wall? Because a lot of times you find that second wind. Does Derek Dixon have that in him this year, or is it gone? As for the Isaiah Dennis question you asked about, that's a great I've been getting that one a lot lately. My thought with him is he had the offseason injury to his finger, had those surgeries on it. I think he just got behind and he's never been able to catch back up and get into the rotation. Like with a first-year player, if they can't get up to speed, it's hard to find that trust and that space in the rotation. And I think he was just a casualty of that this year. I hope he sticks around because I think he's going to have a lot to add his sophomore year, but I don't think we'll ever see it from him this year.
Yeah, it's almost like it's crazy. He's not getting any burn right now, but the way the roster is in NIL and the portal and everything, if he's just simply here next year, he might be a starter, in terms of what we have. Yeah, so it's like it's a weird thing. And I do see him active on the bench. It doesn't seem like he's disconnected or anything. It's just strange. I'm like, is he not playing defense in practice or something? And PJ made the point. He's like, well, in the NC State game, no one played defense. So that's not an excuse to not put him on the floor. I was like, yeah. So I don't know exactly what's going on there. Isaac Schade in the house from Locked on Heels podcast, talking all things Heels hoops. And North Carolina will be playing Syracuse 1:00 on Saturday on ABC Live. So make sure you check that out. Henry Vassar, he is dealing with a lower extremity injury. First of all, have you ever heard that before? And second of all, what do you know? Have you heard anything in terms of what's going on? Because I've been hearing people have been coming to me asking me to confirm that he has some sort of Achilles injury. And I've not heard this in terms of for fact from the school or anybody that I would deem credible in terms of knowing what's going on.
Right.
And plus, if it was Achilles, I would assume they would say, tender sore Achilles or something to that effect. Sure. Lower extremity makes me feel like it's like a groin injury or something. And I remember specifically in the Miami game, there was a play where he ended up getting, man. He got hit like in the midsection. Yeah. And there was no foul called. Yep. And I remember specifically he was out of bounds getting ready to try to inbound and he was just kind of hunched over. Yep. And I don't remember him being much of a factor after that. And I'm wondering if that's when it happened and what happened. Have you heard anything? What's the latest on the Henry Vassar injury and what have you heard?
That's a great one. Yeah, I remember that play specifically. I was like, oh, he just folded like a rag doll.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. Let's go big picture with it for just a second, Desmond. We've basically, on injury reports now, have divided the body into two hemispheres, the northern and southern. And it's like, because the ACC is now mandating that you specify, like, that you give the injury reports and stuff. And this goes back to some football stuff as well. We never list specificity of injury. It's always upper body injury, lower body injury. That's all you're going to get, because they're not wanting to give away more than they have to. And so, like, we will not get that level of specificity. However, Henry Vesar, if you look, has had some tape, some kinesiology tape or whatever it is on his left Achilles. You can see it on there that it's been down there. And so that is fully my expectation of what it has been, is that it's an Achilles thing where it's not ripped or ruptured. There hasn't been, it splits and it curls up and you can see it and it's gross and I don't want to look at it. Oh. It's not that. It's just that it's, from all of my understanding, it's that it's tender and a potential issue right now that they don't want to exacerbate. Andrew Jones from Tar Heel 247 had done a great job reporting on this. I think it was on Thursday that he had heard from, sources inside the program that it is some sort of Achilles type thing, and that it might be a couple weeks here, unfortunately, is maybe what it's sounding. And so the potential right now is that if that's a reality, that Caleb Wilson could actually be back in the mix before Henry Vesar, just depending on how quickly Caleb's able to get that splint off and be ready to go.
And that's actually pretty interesting there too, because I don't think Hubert would have liked it if we told him at the beginning of the season, yeah, by the time you get to the last 2 weeks of the season, you're not going to have Caleb Wilson, you're not going to have Henry Vesar. They're like 50 points of your offense, and they're going to be gone. James Brown's hurt too, so even if you had any inkling of him getting better,
and Ivan Metlekovich is hurt as well. So
we haven't seen him at all.
Those four bigs are all on the injury report right now,
and that's a 7-footer that nobody knows about. That's been sitting on the bench for Carolina the whole year. That I believe he transferred in from High Point.
That's correct.
Yep. Yeah. So and he's not available. So your bigs are down to Jaron Stevenson, who does not play like a big. He plays like a 6'9", 6'10" wing. I mean, we got introduced to him with him hitting all those threes in that NCAA tournament game when he was at Alabama. And honestly, there's not really another big that like goes in and posts. Zayden High is actually impressed in terms of what we had seen from him previously to what he's had to do now. He's been forced to do. Granted, it's a whole different ballgame comparing Zayden High to Caleb Wilson in the post, but at least Zayden's down there trying to get stuff, and he's honestly been their best player the past 2 games. But unfortunately, that's not enough to win, as they're about to go through a bunch of quad 1 games. They just did it with NC State. They got the Syracuse game. They got Louisville coming up. I believe the Virginia Tech game's at home, and that's probably the quote-unquote easiest game they have left on the roster. But they also have Duke, of course, again, March 7th. So
give me Clemson in between.
Virginia and Clemson, Tech. 25th. Ranked in the top 25, Clemson there too. So you're dealing with the top half of the ACC basically over the next couple of weeks without your 2 best players. We just talked about Vesar. Let's move over to Caleb Wilson, because pretty encouraging news, I believe, from Hubert Davis on his show this week. He basically said Caleb's already starting to practice using his right hand. It's his non-shooting hand. He did come back into that Miami game when the results were negative last weekend and scored 9 points in the half, but you could tell he wasn't really exactly himself.
That's right.
Thoughts on him? Because I feel like he might be back by this time next week. Because I'd ask, can he play with like a cast or something on to protect that hand, especially since it's his non-shooting hand? And it's, by all accounts, it sounds like he can. Doesn't sound like it's a complete fracture. Otherwise, I would imagine he would have been on a hard cast sitting on the bench. He's in a soft cast right now. Right. What have you heard about Caleb Wilson and potential for him to come back sooner than later?
Yeah, I think it's my take all along has been, I think it's a good sign that the imaging, on location in Miami didn't show anything, and it wasn't revealed till they actually got back to Chapel Hill. I think that's a good sign that it's not an awful break that was worse. I love your point about it being the soft cast, the splint kind of thing, rather than a hard cast. There's a couple things that I think will determine when Caleb ultimately comes back. Is pain tolerance. What is it for him? Because it's different for every person. Man, Desmond, I'm an absolute weenie, and I would be sitting on the ground whimpering in pain probably. And Caleb, being the competitor he is, I bet they are having to keep him down, right? Like, knowing Caleb, he'd probably be playing tomorrow at Syracuse.
He looked like he wanted to check in during the state game. Like
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and the understanding is, post game in the locker room, he's the one that kind of laid into everybody. Like, our fight and our grit wasn't there, and so you're never going to get that removed from Caleb Wilson. That's a thoroughbred that just wants to be out running. Let him loose and let him rip.
Let him run.
But there's wisdom in what in battle versus war terminology. Do we, like, how important is it for him to help win the battle of Louisville versus the war of the rest of the season? How much will these wins or losses affect NCAA tournament seeding and ACC tournament seeding? I think that's all part of the calculus you've got to determine. And down the stretch here, it's the Syracuse game and the Virginia Tech game that you simply cannot lose. Right. You have to win tomorrow at Syracuse. You've got to win at home against Virginia Tech. The other three are games that are much more understandable losses. And so you want Caleb back as soon as he's back and ready and cleared by the medical staff. When will that be? Remains to be seen. I think it's the kind of thing where, is it NCAA tournament time? Let's let him cook. But right now, I don't know that you risk longer term injury or worse injury that would preclude him from being in the NCAA tournament for the sake of a regular season win. And so that's what I'm trying to process as a coaching staff or as a training staff, is what level of healthy does Caleb need to be to let him back in a regular season game? And so maybe it's next week. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Clemson, maybe the Duke regular season finale. But we'll keep our eyes on it. I will be back. I fully expect him to be back. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Duke would probably be the target point, which would be a week from this Saturday.
2 weeks from Saturday.
Or 2 weeks from Saturday, yes. That would give him a full 3.5+ weeks of recovery time. I would imagine Vassar, if it's just like a tenderness in the Achilles, that would be enough time to rest that as well to get ready for the stretch run. I've given up on the whole. I felt like after Duke that we had opportunity to get into those top 4 seeds and actually get a double bye. I've kind of abandoned that now. Because right now, of course, Duke's at the top of the league, 13-1. They're only lost to Carolina on that buzzer beater by Steph Trimble. They've won 3 straight. They've got a huge matchup against number 1 Michigan and Elliott Cadeau on Saturday at 6:30 on ESPN. Earlier in the day, second-ranked Arizona takes
Houston.
on Houston.
Arizona's 4.
Houston takes on, they take on Houston, Big 12 action. It's the first time, and I don't remember how long, where the top 4 teams in the AP top 25 poll are facing off against each other during the regular season. So huge Saturday in terms of college basketball as a whole. Virginia's sitting at 11-2. Miami's at 10-3. I think people thought that Miami loss was actually like a bad loss. Miami was ahead of us in the standings when we got there. Right. So like they were already sitting pretty, and they've won 4 straight. Clemson's lost 3 straight. They're 10-4. They were right there with Duke for a little bit there. And then you got NC State at 10-4 as well. They've turned it around once they started ACC play. Then you got Carolina, and you got this kind of log jam, kind of sort of not in the middle of the league, but like right below the top of the league. Once you get out of those first 5, Carolina, Louisville, SMU, all sitting at either 8-5 or 7-6. And then you start getting into the sub 500s with Cal, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and others. How much do you put into getting these guys ready for the ACC tournament? Like, are you really wanting them prepared for Charlotte, or would you hold them out? Because we've had enough marquee wins. I feel like, I don't think we're going to lose out the rest of the games of the season, but we might get a low seed and get into the tournament. And just based off the wins against Kansas, Kentucky, and Duke,
and Virginia. That's a huge win.
At Virginia. So they've got enough where they won't be on the line like we've been dealing with the past couple of years. But how much faith do you have in them getting both these guys back by turning time? And if they do get them back, how much faith do you have in this team from what you've seen sample size so far to actually make a decent run?
I think some of that, in terms of how do they need to perform in the ACC tournament, is going to depend on what happens in these final 5 games. If Carolina goes 2-3, then they probably are looking at a 7 seed, maybe fall into an 8. Right now, they're a 6 seed, essentially, in the NCAA tournament. Some media did a mock bracketing exercise yesterday with the NCAA, and Carolina was slotted in as a 6 seed in that exercise. And so that's where they kind of essentially are right now. But, thinking of the ACC tournament side of things, my full expectation, as you're kind of saying, is I think they will get a single bye, meaning they would start play on Wednesday of the ACC tournament. Look, you still got Clemson and Louisville, who are the teams right now. Clemson right above, Louisville right tied with Carolina. And so you've still got an opportunity, to move up a little bit. But even that wouldn't get you into the top 4. It's going to take some losses from NC State, maybe Miami, to get Carolina into that double bye. If Carolina goes 2-3, down the stretch of the regular season, then that puts more pressure on the ACC tournament. Then you really need at least Caleb or Henry, if not both, back, because you feel like you got to at least win one game, if not two.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
If Carolina, let's say they go 3-2, let's say they go 4-1, maybe win everything but at Duke down the stretch, that's a lot less stress on the ACC tournament. And then you're just kind of because what you don't want to do is go into that first NCAA tournament game, and that's your first game action back with both of those guys.
Right.
You need a lead up into it. And historically, Carolina hasn't really seemed to care as much about the ACC tournament. And so, yeah, I mean, you're out there, you play, you want to win, right? But I think there's a world in which Hubert Davis would use that opportunity as something of just like, if they're both just getting back, it's like, hey, this is a tune-up opportunity for us ahead of the NCAA tournament. I think they're going to play hard getting those guys back, but it's tough to work guys back in, both in terms of their conditioning and connectivity with the team. So we got to watch for all of that. So I think ultimately ACC tournament desperation depends on the home stretch here of the regular season.
If you're a Tar Heels fan, you've got plenty of options to get news and analysis and recaps and stuff, whether it's Locked on Heels, Believe in Heels Hoops on the Believe Podcast Network, and all kinds of other stuff. Go follow Isaac and check out Locked on Heels. He does excellent work. The latest, and actually, you know what, before I get you out of here, real quick thoughts on Dylan Mingo, the 5-star who signed, and is going to be joining Maximo Adams to create a Duke-sized lineup next year, depending on who stays behind. I think I was looking at who would be in that lineup if Dixon's still here and everybody else. I think the shortest player would be like 6'5" or something like that, if Vassar is here as well. Thoughts on, real quick, on Dylan Mingo and how big of a get is that for Hubert?
It's a massive get. I mean, for multiple reasons. Getting a player of this caliber is great for the team and the success on the floor. As you said, if Derek Dixon stays around and that's your starting backcourt, they're both 6'5". Awesome. I love that. He is a winner. He does it on the defensive end. He's got good length. He's a playmaker. He and Dixon can play together because they're both guys that can both play on and off the ball. So I'm not worried about synergy issues or chemistry issues there. Absolutely, they can start. And it's that Hubert Davis always talks about, I love having 2 point guards on the floor. That could be that. And they can interchangeably play on and off the ball. And that would be great for the Tar Heels. And you look at who pairs with them. Henry Vassar sliding into the back end of the first round in a lot of mock drafts I've seen. So there might be a full front court replacement similar to what we're talking about now. Jaren Stevenson has more eligibility. I'm curious to see what Luka Bogovac decides to do. You got Jonathan Powell with more eligibility. We talked about Isaiah Dennis earlier. So it feels like, similar to this year, there's a lot more depth right now in the backcourt than there will be in the front court. So that's what I'm keeping my eye on. Obviously, Maximo Adams is a front court player. He's a power forward. He is not at the level of Caleb Wilson. Don't expect that. But he is somebody that will be able to step in and play right away for the Tar Heels. So I'm fully expecting, assuming that Henry Vassar is also gone, because Caleb is gone. Don't think about it. Don't guess. Don't like maybe the end. No, he's gone. He's a top 5 pick. No. He like if this was the Dean Smith era, he would say, Michael Jordan, you cannot come back, right? Like that's what we're talking about.
Won't push him out.
So a big old front court replacement is going to be happening there. Something to keep an eye on. Dylan Mingo's brother, Caden, is a freshman at Penn State this year. He is a very good player. He's their second leading scorer. Penn State was one of the other finalists for Dylan Mingo. So just in this day and age, something to keep an eye on. Is there a world in which Caden says, boy, I'd love to go play with my brother in Chapel Hill because Penn State sucks.
He's a point guard, isn't he?
He is. And so that's the only part of it is there even space for him in the backcourt? He's their second leading scorer. He leads the Big Ten in steals per game. So it's somebody that if he wants to come, you probably try to find some space for him. And we'll have to keep an eye on who else is in and out for the Tar Heels as well. Like, does Kyan Evans stick around? Does he enter the transfer portal? There's a lot there. Jaden Young still has eligibility.
Yeah, and these are kids: Jaden Young, Jaren Stevenson. Jaren Stevenson played high school hoops in Chapel Hill. Like he grew up right underneath Carolina. Jaden Young's from Greensboro, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere in North Carolina, where he grew up wanting to play for the Tar Heels. So I'd imagine they're going to stay as long as Hubert has room for them to stay and has a plan for them. So it feels like Hubert's kind of figured it out in terms of go get 2 or 3 5-star freshmen, go get 3 or 4 kids out of the portal that fit your system. Make sure you pick guys that can stay more than a year, like a Jonathan Powell or a Derek Dixon. They seem like 2-3 year guys where you still have a base where you can have something some sort of semblance of continuing between the players and the program. Seth Trimble represents that to me right now for this year's team, where it's a carryover from the RJ Davis, Armando years or whatnot. They represented that when they were there. So I like that they've got that and they got that going on. I got to get you out of here. Appreciate you coming through. Locked on Heels podcast. Go find that so you can get the latest news on Tar Heel hoops throughout the season. We still got a long way to go, guys. A couple more weeks to go before we get this thing resolved. But hopefully we'll get one of our bigs back here soon. Maybe we see Vassar on Saturday. I don't know. Maybe. Thanks for coming through, man.
Thanks for having me, Desmond. Have a great weekend.
All right, buddy. And there he goes. That's Isaac Schade there from the Locked on Heels podcast. We'll be back in just a second. Chris Lee will be in the house from WRAL and Panthers Playbook. We'll be back in just a bit.
Sell a home in the Triad area? Meet Nikki Rottweiler of Head Realty Group at eXp Realty, a local pro with over 6 years of experience serving Winston
Welcome back
and beyond. Need a fast turnaround? Nikki is your
Welcome back into the Desmond Johnson Show, a Friday edition here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. Make sure you rate and subscribe to the YouTube channel, fast growing, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Friend of the program, WRL's Chris Lee in the house, a busy man. Finally caught up to him to do a little bit of the David Glenn Sports Buffet. What's going on, Chris? How you doing?
What's happening, man? Definitely got to make time for you. You know what I'm saying? You wanted the day one, so got to make sure that we talked to the Triad too, and I missed the Triad too. So
yeah, we go way back, like old school intercom way back. So yeah. And actually, it's crazy. I got on the UNCG Greensboro shirt today too.
Spartan.
So we repping Spartan pride. I want to get a couple things. I took the wife out to Charlotte last night. Great experience. We went to go watch the Charlotte Hornets coming back out of the All-Star break. Of course, they fell short last night to Kevin Durant. Man, like that's the first time I've ever seen Kevin Durant like live, like in person. He's unguardable. Like you can't guard him. Like the way he's shaped and what he does, there was no one on. I mean, LaMelo's 6'9" or whatever, and he could not do anything with him. He scores 35 points, and the Rockets end up winning the game. Of course, the Hornets were without Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate, who are still serving their suspensions for the Detroit brawl from before the All-Star break. But my thoughts right now, the Hornets are hot. I realized as we were walking through Charlotte and we were going to Spectrum Center from the garage, it felt like the whole city was out, like trying to get into this building for this game. And we just started randomly talking to somebody behind us in line, waiting to get through the metal detectors. And we both were just like, yeah, it's different in Charlotte when the Hornets are good, or at least fascinating compared to the Panthers. Like when the Panthers are good, it's a certain vibe. But when the Hornets are good, it's a whole different vibe in Charlotte. Yeah. Who's your favorite player right now on this Hornets roster?
Man, that's so hard to choose because I like everybody for a lot of different reasons. I just want to say, like, I love this starting lineup, when Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate are back, because you have a little bit of everything. And this group of people, they can start ruling together. It's so hard to pick, but I'll probably have to say Brandon Miller. I think he could be like the X factor for the Hornets moving forward if he ends up kind of taking the reins as the number one guy, and LaMelo is the number two guy, but who's going to be distributing the ball, making sure everybody kind of gets their shots, and also putting that show towards everything. And Con Knippel steps in, being that 3-point marksman. I think this team can go far. I mean, probably within the next 2 to 3 years. It's because they can grow together. They're all young, and this team is something that could end up being something that the NBA is going to have to reckon with moving forward. It's amazing how long we've been starving for good basketball, and what you just said as far as the vibe in Charlotte. This is still a basketball state. Absolutely. At the end of the day. Yep. You want to have the Panthers to be good, but at the end of the day, don't let us have, NBA playoffs.
No.
And deep in the playoffs in North Carolina. I mean, like, Panthers who? You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
true. That's facts. People don't understand it. They come from out of here, but like if you lived here and grew up here, the Hornets had the heart of the state before the Panthers. Like, in terms, because back in the day, you could watch every Hornet game on TV for free. Like the Hornets TV network was just accessible by antenna, so you could watch Larry Johnson and Zoe and Muggsy and Kendall Gill and all these guys. And honestly, really since Baron Davis, is that right? The last time, well, Kemba, they had a little run with Kemba, right?
Kemba had it a little bit, because, and I think people felt maybe sorry for him. He was the lovable figure because, here's this 6 foot guy, barely 6 foot guy that's out here doing all the scoring and kind of taking the team on his back. He just had nobody to play with. Yeah. But I think Kemba was definitely a lovable figure. He just didn't have the squad, but they had a little run there, a little bit.
Chris Lee from WRAL joining us here, as well as being a sports taker over at WRAL. He's also the co-host of Panthers Playbook with our friend Dennis Cox. And flipping over to the Carolina Panthers in the NFL real quick. This is a list of free agents that are going to be available here to potentially franchise tag for the Carolina Panthers. I don't think they're going to be franchise tagging anyone, but there's anybody on this list that you could consider that they might consider putting the franchise tag on, as I pulled the unrestricted free agents and the restricted free agents here. I do see Jalen Coker's name here underneath the exclusive rights free agents. So,
with Coker, they can essentially offer him the minimum and nobody else can really give him anything. And so he'd have to sign it, but I'm sure they're going to actually take care of him. There's nobody on that list that I feel like needs to be franchise tagged. A lot of those players that, you have right there as far as the unrestricted free agents towards the top, a lot of the offensive linemen, I would like for them to kind of sign back, especially Josh Nijman, not knowing what's going to be the case with Ike Ekwonu with his knee injury. I would like to see Brady Christensen back as well, because he's somebody who's kind of been in the fold. That's another maybe 1 year type of deal. And also Cade Mays. A lot of the other guys, though, are potentially dispensable. I think Travis Gibson is a good, training camp type of guy that you can kind of bring in. And maybe somebody like a Caleb Evans or a Chris Barnes or a Christian Roseboom you bring back to kind of get some of that spirit from this past year and have them compete for some spots. But there's nobody outside of the first ones that I named that I feel like needs to absolutely be on the roster. You can find their replacements in free agency and also in the draft. It's really the offensive line I'm really worried about with there. So I don't think they need to franchise tag anybody.
Yeah, especially with Icky probably out for the season next year with the leg injury he suffered at the end of the 2025 season. Now you've got a hole at left tackle. Just when you're just starting to get comfortable with everything offensively. The name I keep seeing pop up that people on the outside don't seem to understand will not be back is Rico Dowdle. Rico will not be back. I'm about 95% positive that that's not going to happen. It's just a cheaper alternative to just draft a guy in the second round to do similar to what Rico's doing, or to give Trevor Etienne those carries. Or we'll see what Jonathan Brooks has, who actually, it seems like that's kind of the game plan. Jonathan Stewart was telling me he sees Jonathan Brooks in the building all the time. And he was like, he looks great. He's in shape. He's been working out. He's waiting, biding his time. He's been getting words of encouragement from everybody. It feels like he's a big part of their plans next year. We'll see how that goes, because we know how leg injuries go with these players, but we'll see what happens regarding that. Chris Lee joining us here in the David Glenn Sports Buffet. As we move some stuff around here, I'm going to switch it over to ACC real quick, because this is a huge weekend in the ACC. I'm just going to ask you point blank: are my boys in trouble? Are Carolina? Are they in trouble? Because we've got some situations going on here where I don't know what a lower extremity injury is. So because it could be anything. And talking about Henry Vassar, he's missed going on. I don't know if he's going to be available for Syracuse on Saturday, but if he doesn't play, that's 3 games in a row he's missed. Caleb Wilson's out practicing with his right hand, and Hubert was on his show this week saying that he'll be back sooner than later. So I actually kind of expect Caleb Wilson to be back maybe by this time next week, and just put him in a cast of some sort and go play. Henry Vassar, though, is a weird case. I don't know what's happening with him. He's been on the bench watching. He's jumping up and down cheering, but for some reason he's not able to play. Can Carolina get by Syracuse at Syracuse on Saturday without their post players?
With one of those guys, for sure. Without both of those guys, NC State already showed you the blueprint of how to do it. And, Syracuse, they don't have any top level talent, but they have enough scrappy guys. I've seen these guys now 2.5 times in person versus Duke, versus NC State, and a little bit versus Carolina. Wasn't there the entire game. And it's not like this is a bad team. They are not very good defensively. That's one of the things that gets to them. Happy. And I think that they have some troubles at times playing together. And that might just be a coaching thing. But they're a good, I think, team that can potentially knock folks off if you're not careful. And last time versus Carolina, they were down by 30 with 8 minutes left, and brought it to within 6.
Yeah.
So it's
and that was not a team that was with Wilson and Vassar. They were, and that was with there.
Wilson and Vassar. And so that's a team that you can't sleep on. I think the difference between Syracuse and NC State is just this amazing shooting team at home, and when they get hot, they just go crazy. So, will they go crazy in the JMA Dome? We'll have to see as far as Syracuse is concerned. But I think the main thing for Carolina is somebody needs to take some pride and step up. And one of the things that I just feel like I've noticed is that when Wilson and Vassar are not in, who's going to take the reins and really step up and be the guy, or be the number 2 guy, or outplay where they were recruited? Outside of, I would say, Stevenson and Vassar, a lot of the either overseas or transfer acquisitions for Carolina has been somewhat duds, and you,
up and down. You can't really count on them. Yeah.
You need some guys to step up and play hard and also play together. That was one of their issues versus NC State. NC State killed them on assist to turnover ratio. There ended up being a lot of ISO ball with Carolina. Yeah. They need to share the ball. They need to play together, and somebody needs to step up.
Over on the other side, 8 miles down the road in Durham. Duke has a huge matchup coming up on Saturday. It's going to be the first time, I can't remember in how long, where the top 4 teams in the AP poll are going to face off against each other on a Saturday. Duke taking on Michigan, number 1 ranked Michigan, and Elliot Cadeau. Tar Heel fans are very familiar with that name. That is I'm trying to find that time for that game. It's a 6:30 p.m. game at ESPN, and that's in DC. So late in the season, non-conference matchup, 2 marquee teams getting after it. Cam Boozer, I don't know what to do with Cam Boozer, because I look at Cam Boozer, and I've said this before because someone said it to me, and now every time I watch him, I can't get it out of my head, where Cam Boozer is a more athletic Tyler Hansbrough. That's literally his game. That's kind of how he plays, except he can shoot threes. He can stretch the floor more than Tyler could. But the way he is down in the paint, it's eerily similar to Tyler Hansbrough with the same results, really. Tyler was one of the best college basketball players of all time. I think Cam Boozer, he won't be here long enough, but he'll be compared to that as well. Would you build an NBA? Would you pick Cam Boozer number 1 overall? Is he going to be the player of the year? And, well, that's really 2 different questions. Would you build an NBA team around Cam Boozer, or would you pick somebody like AJ Devonsa or Caleb Wilson or, I was going to say Darren Peterson, but now the perception on Darren Peterson is starting to wane a little bit because of him being in and out of the lineup. Would you pick Cam first, number 1 overall in this year's class, which is going to be loaded with a lot of freshmen, it looks like?
It's one of those things where, if you get there, you have that number 1 overall pick, and you feel like Cam can help you out the most. I think you can. I think that you have to look at it a little bit differently, though, because with Cam, and people have to remember this, just because you pick somebody in the lottery doesn't mean that they're going to be your number 1 player or whatever moving forward. They could be a really solid number 2. And, maybe you are, let's say for hypothetical reasons, it won't be the Thunder, but if it's the Thunder, somehow or another, because they have all those picks that they're stashing away, and somehow or another they get the number 1 overall pick and they don't need it because they're already stacked. You already have Shea. But if Cam Boozer is right there, and he's somebody who also can probably play well with a guard like Shea, because he can pass, he can drive, he can shoot as well, he can stretch the floor, he also can rebound for you and clean up right there, but somebody else is going to be that number 1 guy, or maybe even number 3 in their case, because they still have Jalen Williams, one of the Jalen Williams. He could probably take the other Jalen Williams' place, the big one. I think he still could be picked at number 1, but I don't think he will be picked at number 1. I still think he's probably 2 or 3. I think somebody's going to look at AJ DeBonsa, or somebody's going to look at maybe a Caleb Wilson or, a Koa Pete, somebody who maybe athletically is a little bit more gifted. Cam Boozer has a higher floor, I think, than a lot of those guys that I just named, but all those other guys maybe have higher ceilings. And so I think with Cam, you kind of already know what you're going to get. For everybody else and what the NBA draft is, you're drafting on potential. So I think he could be a number one overall pick. I just don't know if he will be. That a lot of places are probably going to go with potential first.
Bonus question, because it is Road to WrestleMania season, and whenever I have Chris or Dennis on, I like to ask them questions about WWE. I've noticed this year in particular, I haven't really watched a lot of Raw or SmackDown on a regular like I had been before. Like when the Bloodline storyline was going on, I was watching it like religiously, like every week. Haven't done that this time around, but I do keep in it enough, and I know you do the same, to keep up with where the storylines are and what's going on. So if you parachute into a pay-per-view, you're not lost. You have an idea of what's happening for the most part. I'll keep this real simple. We already know one of the main events for WrestleMania, and I think everyone's in agreement it's the right one. It's going to be main event, probably night 2. CM Punk defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns. The story writes itself. The promos are going to be fire. I'm fine with that. That's a perfect one, actually. What should be the main event for night 1? Because they've got this thing going around. Drew McIntyre's WWE champion. Cody Rhodes has had that belt for over a year, off and on. And you got Jacob Fatu kind of circling around in that story as well. They all kind of hate each other. They're all beating up on each other. Should that be the main event of night 1? Or is there some other combination of something that would draw more of an eye from the public to come in and watch this WrestleMania, which honestly has been kind of a lackluster build compared to previous WrestleManias, in my opinion?
It has been. I don't think this is going to be the case because dirt sheets are saying that it probably will be something different. I wouldn't mind because Drew McIntyre, I love him. He's great. I don't think Drew McIntyre versus anybody outside of Roman Reigns, maybe just Roman Reigns, is a big draw, right? He's good enough to be in there, but there needs to be somebody else. There needs to be something else. And I say, make it a Hoss match, make it a triple threat. If somehow or another coming out of the Elimination Chamber, what if it's Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi, and through Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. I know Obafemi just got there. He's just coming up from NXT, and he's only been on the main roster for maybe a month and a half, couple of months. But this is the right time to go ahead and put him in that position. Now, you can make it a funky type of a finish. He doesn't get pinned. Drew McIntyre ends up retaining and moving on. And then you put Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar as the build to SummerSlam. And all of a sudden, you've made a star in his first 6 months, first 8 months on the main roster. And, I mean, he's a 2-time NXT champion, big guy. I mean, I think he was a little bit taller than Brock Lesnar, about the same size body-wise as him. They had a little face-off at the Royal Rumble. That would be a good idea. The dirt sheets and some of the rumors have Brock Lesnar doing something else. But if I were to pick it, I think I would love to see that. And I think the fans would love to see that as well. There
you go. See, he's a professional. Came in and out, sports buffet, undid the bid. Good to go. Chris Lee from WRAL coming in. And the Panthers playbook. I'm assuming you guys you're probably like we are with Bleeding Panthers, where it's kind of let's do an episode this week.
We still do once a week. So we're going to continue to do at least once a week. And every Thursday we drop on 99.9 The Fans YouTube page. So there's a new episode out for this week. Once free agency and draft and all that hits, we'll probably start picking it up and doing more episodes. But yeah, we're going to keep hitting it once a week up until the season.
So there you go. Follow them on the WRL YouTube channel, Panthers Playbook, once a week there. And you can catch Chris throughout the week on WRL. Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that's it for Friday here on the Desmond Johnson Show. We will see you guys next Tuesday. David Glenn will be in the house. Some more surprises as well. We'll go through the fallout of this ACC weekend in basketball on Tuesday. So we'll see you guys then.